I'm a hustler, baby.
It's time for Hustle Her Podcast. I'm your host, Jocene Wade. Hustle Her is all about inspiring women through real life experiences that have helped to mold and develop not only me, but my guests into the entrepreneurs and leaders we are today. If you're an enterprising woman determined to succeed and looking for a bit of motivation, a bit of tough love, and some actionable takeaways to be the best you, girl, you are in the right place. Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Super excited that you joined me today. Really excited about today's guest. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe, guys. You get all the episodes ahead of time. You know we're going to premiere the episodes, and you'll get to see it before everybody else. After you do that, head over to the website, www.hustleheartpodcast.com, and then sign up to be one of our VIP members so you can get all the show notes. You can learn a bit more about my guest and read her bio and all that wonderful stuff, and you might get some cool things from one of our sponsors. So I'm so incredibly excited for my guest today. Not only is she amazing, but she is the very first female CEO of the Bermuda Tourism Authority. Please help me welcome the amazing Tracy Berkeley. How are you?
Hello.
Yes, I got it. And the crowd goes wild.
Love it.
It's amazing. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yes.
I am. I'm doing well.
Good.
Happy to be here.
Loving
Very
this
excited.
outfit.
Thank you.
Very
My little
nice.
ensemble for today. I thought I would show up. So,
and you should, girl. We're here for it. I love it. All right. So we're going to jump right in, ask a few questions, and then we'll get right to it.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh my goodness. French fries. I love a little, oh God, I hope my trainer's not going to listen to this. I love a good French fry with seasoned salt and pepper. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
I like anything potato. Anything a potato.
And also like warm bread.
Girl, your trainer is about to make you do some burpees.
Easter was terrible. Easter was terrible. It was terrible.
How many hot cross buns did you have?
Oh, I don't want to disclose, but it was more than what I was supposed to have. Yeah,
Okay.
So anything soft and starchy, but French fries and warm bread, I'm done.
I love it. Okay. What is your favorite thing to do on the weekend? Other than sit here on the couch with me for my podcast.
Of course, that's number one. What is my favorite thing to do? Honestly, if ever I have any free time on the weekends, I just like to be out in the sun, having some lunch, either with my daughters or some friends, and just relaxing. That's generally what I like to do. Okay. I don't generally get to do that.
Yeah, no, totally understand. I totally appreciate those times where you're like not doing anything, especially when you're just so busy during the week, right? Perfect. All right. So we've established that you don't watch Love is Blind. So what is your current favorite TV show?
That's interesting. I don't know that I have a favorite television show anymore. I am a serial binge watcher on Netflix.
What's your most recent binge then?
Oh gosh, I just watched something and I can't remember the name of it. It was a 4-part series about a woman who was looking for her husband, and I don't remember the name of it. But
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember.
It'll come to you at
But
some
that's
point.
kind of what I do. If there's something recent on Netflix and I can binge watch it, I'll binge watch it.
Okay, so you got 4 seasons of Love is Blind to binge watch.
I have homework. I'm committed.
There you go. All right. So what's your favorite go-to lazy dinner that you make or you order?
So I think, my favorite meal to cook is anything with lamb in it. I love lamb. I'm probably going to have to start easing off of it a little bit. But I love Indian. I love Indian food. I love curry. I love spice. And then Jamaican is probably my second favorite. But those are sort of my go-to. Anything with rice, starch, non-bread.
There you go.
I'm sensing a theme.
I was just about to say. Yeah.
So that's sort of my go-to cuisine.
Okay. Yeah. And your favorite thing to do in the summertime?
Travel. Although don't get to do that much for leisure. Travel. I love talking to people. I love talking to people that I've not met to try to sort of connect with them and get to know who they are. anything outside. I love being on the water. I love going to the beach.
Yeah.
I'm an outside girl. I love the sun. So whenever I have an opportunity to do any of those things, that's where you'll find me in summertime.
Okay. And your favorite concert ever?
So my children are going to hate this. I'm a big Prince fan. So when I was in high school, this is how long ago this was, I got to go to a Prince concert. I was about 16 at the time. And I met with this guy who, I didn't realize this, but I thought we were friends. And that whole Prince concert was meant to be something else. But anyway, I got to see Prince.
And that's all that mattered.
And that's all that mattered. Yeah. And that's my favorite concert to date because I loved him so much.
Oh my God. My stepmom is a huge Prince fan as well. Prince can do no wrong in her eyes. None whatsoever.
He can.
Yeah.
I mean,
even Prince wearing heels, she's like, who cares? It's Prince.
Hi. Thank you. I agree. Prince. Yeah. So that was my favorite. That was my favorite.
All right. And when you wake up and you look over at your nightstand, what do you see?
2 phones. My lamp. I have affirmation cards. I have a daily devotion. My iPad is on my nightstand too. A watch and a charger.
Okay. And then finally, everyone gets asked this. Who is your celebrity crush?
Who is my celebrity crush? Well, that recently got ruined for me. We talked about that.
We talked about that.
So
poor Idris, he can't be mentioned on the show ever again.
So I think Tay Diggs, I think. Maybe if he was a little taller, but I like the chocolate. Yeah, so Tay Diggs.
There you go. Yeah. Like Tay Diggs. All right. Cool.
Winston.
Okay. Not Winston. That's nice. Stella. Okay. All right. So let's jump right in. So tell me about young Tracy. What did young Tracy want to be when she grew up?
So young Tracy wanted to be either a social worker or a veterinarian. I recognize 2 very different extremes.
Yes.
I've always had when I was young, I always felt a lot of compassion for like older people and people that were taking advantage of children. So I thought, social work would sort of take care of those 2 extremes, right? Then I decided as I got a little bit older that I wanted to be a veterinarian. And I made the mistake of having that conversation with my great-grandfather one day. I was like, I want to be a veterinarian. And he went, a veterinarian? You mean you want to be a doctor for animals? And I went, yes. Isn't that exciting? He went, absolutely not. Oh, no. You're going to do something in business. You're not going to take care of animals. Dream crushed.
Oh my goodness.
So I moved away from that. But I always thought I was going to be a social worker.
Yeah. And what did you like to do for fun when you were younger?
I lived on Parsons Road, and there were a lot of boys in my neighborhood. A few girls, but a lot of boys. And so I always used to just like go outside and play. I didn't want to be in the house.
Yeah.
So whatever the boys were doing, I was trying to do it too. So always outside, running around, making a whole lot of noise and having a lot of fun. So that's what I like to do in the yard, because I couldn't leave my yard. Oh. No, you couldn't leave the yard. You had to stay in the yard.
Okay.
You had to stay in the yard. And then my friends couldn't come over in the yard because then they would make too much noise. So then I had to leave the yard. So you see the construct.
So much conflict.
So much. So many decisions I had to make early in life. Am I going to obey, or am I going to have a little bit of fun here?
Yeah. So. And just deal with the consequences later. Yeah. Cool. Did you play any instruments or anything like that growing up?
Yes. So I played the piano. I came from a very musical family, by the way. So my grandmother.
Do you sing?
I do sing.
Really?
But you will never catch me singing in the open now.
Oh goodness.
So I grew up in a musical family. My mom and my grandmother both played the piano. My grandmother was a music teacher. So I played the piano from young, the flute, the flute and I think the piano were the 2 that I played the most. Recorder, but that I feel like that doesn't count. It's a recorder.
Recorder counts. I remember. Okay. I still remember how to play hot cross buns.
Then I was the jam on the recorder. then that was my instrument. So yeah. Okay. I don't play the piano now. I don't play the flute. I still hear the notes. I know the notes. I know the chords and everything, but I just don't.
You don't play. Did you have your kids play instruments and stuff growing up?
Yeah, that was a requirement.
Got you.
Because I was brought up that way. It was a requirement that they at least had to play an instrument, so they did.
Nice.
But like me, eventually they were like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's important.
So what are some of the things that your parents kind of instilled in you that you use still to this day with your own kids?
So I would say, so there were a lot of similarities growing up, with the way I grew up and how I tried to raise my children, especially when they were younger. So heavily into faith. They had to go to Sunday school. They were part of all of like the youth things that they used to have going on. So we really tried to raise our children in the same faith that we grew up in. And I often found myself saying some of the most ridiculous things to my children that my mom would say to me. Like, I'll give them a little smack and then I'll say, do you want me to give you something to cry for? Like,
Oh, man.
that's so stupid. Just
Yeah.
dumb stuff. But really it was about, for us, family, faith, and there's just trying to give them all of the opportunities that we were not afforded. So that was kind of the benchmark from my childhood, and then trying to give them that as well. Yeah.
That's amazing. So now that you're this, new CEO of the BTA, what are some of those kind of like leadership skills that you were taught differently that you kind of apply at work?
So let me step back. I'll go back to childhood for a second. So I was raised by a single parent. My mom was a single parent, but within my household, it was my great-grandfather, my great-grandma before she died, my grandmother, my mother, me, and then eventually my sister. So there were about 4 generations living in a house. So I am the oldest grandchild, great-grandchild on both sides of my family, right?
Me too.
See, we rock.
Yes.
So in the house, the father figure for me was my great-grandfather, Robert Fenton. And he spent a lot of time pouring into me, a lot of time. And I didn't realize what he was doing. And I for darn sure didn't appreciate it because I just wanted to be outside. But he taught me poems from his childhood. And he spoke to me about birthright and legacy. And he talked to me about the importance of education and working hard. He instilled so much in me that is present today. My work ethic is because of him.
Wow.
The way I view life is because of him. Is because of all of the times that he would if he would hear me outside, he'd tell me to come inside, and he'd sit down and he'd talk to me.
At the time you didn't want to hear it, but
and he used to talk to me about family and where he came from. And just by virtue of my birthright, just by virtue of the fact that I have his last name, that meant I had to be about something. I didn't understand any of what he was doing until he left. Until he left this world, and I realized what he put in. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. Safe space here on the couch.
Sorry.
So it's fine. I gotta start switching seats with people when they come here. That's like the little sink in there kind of gets you.
It's good. Like you get comfortable. So yeah.
But yeah, I think that's super important. And the play on like the birthright and instilling in you your values. I mean, that's such a reflection into what you currently do.
Yeah.
Right? Like having that type of, background and base, you can truly throw that into your current career.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's crazy. It's amazing. Sometimes we don't know what we're being set up for until we're kind of in the moment for it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You start to look back and you start to think about, the conversations that you've been a part of, and just watching people navigate their lives and realize how much of an impact what they did has on yourself is huge. The other person in my life, or the other influential person in my life, was in fact my grandmother. So my paternal grandmother, who the anniversary of her death was just yesterday, 4 years ago. Yesterday, and I was on the internet. I was on YouTube looking for something, and I came across this clip that talked about restoration and the importance of restoration and what restoration really is. And restoration is when your grandmother and your great grandfather were denied things that you now have access to.
Wow.
And the dreams that they had and the prayers that they prayed are now on this generation. And it was just such a moment yesterday, just reflecting on the type of person she was and the type of person my great grandfather was, and where I find myself today. It's none of it's by chance. God is in all of it. And I really do believe that.
Absolutely. So as an older sibling as well, like how are your relationship with your siblings growing up? Like, do you have a pretty maternal instinct with them as well? Or is it just kind of like siblings?
So my mother's daughter, my maternal sibling, it gets very confusing. They're all my brothers and sisters.
Yes.
No one's a half anything.
Yes, totally get it.
But the one that I grew up in the house with, she was more like my little sister. She was more like my kid, right? So I took care of her. I used to comb her hair. I used to boss her around. I used to tell her what to do. She was my kid, right? Yeah. My other siblings we're very close. My brother and I, we grew up together. And and I've said this recently, although he was the youngest, I was the one that was being led around with all his shenanigans.
Yeah.
So he was the one that would get in trouble. I would just be the one that was like,
it was him.
Yeah, we are all very close, and they all play a very specific part in my life. I recently found out on my 50th birthday that I had another brother. I had done an ancestry DNA test.
Oh my goodness, I want to do one so bad.
Do it. Yeah. Do it. Do it.
Yes.
My daughter Adrian, she had done a test because she always wanted to know like where she came from, what her sort of DNA profile was. And I was like, when she got hers, I was, well, let me see what you got from me and what you got from your dad. So I did one. Yeah. Not expecting to find anything else other than to just help her understand what half of her was me. Yeah. Right? That's the most important thing. What part of you is me? And a couple of months later, I got a message from a gentleman named Terrence who says, I believe you're my sister. Oh my goodness. And we just started talking from there. He is, in fact, my brother. And it's been the best, most amazing gift ever. Really? Ever. He's 6 months younger than I am. We call each other Twinsy. He lives in Canada. It was an amazing, strange thing to happen.
Yeah. I kind of I've had something similar happen with some people close to me, and much older actually, and they're all retired, and found their parents are now passed away, and found out something very similar. And some of the siblings were pretty angry about it. And then, but it was two of the other siblings that were essentially like, it was great, just welcomed her into the fold. Absolutely. And didn't even think anything of it. But it was very strange for them for a really long time, but in a weird way, right? So it's so interesting.
I think it was the same for mine. My youngest sister, she was a little bit like,
who are you?
But I was sort of like, of course you're my brother. Yeah. Of course you are. So it was natural. And interestingly enough, even though we did not grow up together, we didn't know about each other, him entering my life felt right. It completed me in a way that I didn't expect.
It's like a missing puzzle piece.
It was actually. Yeah. He was.
That's
really
and he
didn't even know it.
Yeah. Nobody did. Well, you guys didn't.
Well, we didn't. That's for sure. Yeah.
That's really cool. So walk me through like what you did, like first job, like how did we get to CEO of the BTA?
Gosh. So I started out at the Bank of Butterfield. Wow. I had my first child young, and got married young, as we do. So my first job was at the Bank of Butterfield, and I worked in the corporate services department for probably about 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. I started out really as the receptionist, believe it or not, and ended up as a corporate administrator, and just realized that I had a knack for business administration, operations, and So I think every role that I had sort of lended itself to that administrative type of role.
Mm-hmm.
I then, some years later, much further along my career, started a job at HWP.
Mm. Wow, I forgot about HWP.
HWP,
Goodness
girl. No, it was not
gracious.
Order Solutions
It
back
was
then.
not Auto Solutions.
And it was at HWP under Jocene Wade that I got into human resources.
Ah.
And it was that situation that got me sort of on the path to where I am today, getting involved in human resources. I fell into it and I was good at it, and made a lot of connections, met a lot of people who were very willing to just sort of pour into me. Naturally a leader, and that comes with its own challenges when you're female.
Yep.
Trying to navigate that space by being true to your femininity and not coming across as too masculine. But it was a whole thing. Anyway, yeah, HWP was, I think, the space that got me on this path to where I am today.
So you mentioned a name just now,
Jocene Wade.
Josie Wayne. So how important was that relationship that kind of pivoted you into human resources? Like, how did that navigation kind of happen?
Yeah, she was the one that gave me the opportunity. She saw something in me. She was new to the organization at the time. She was looking for an HR manager, and it just sort of started from there. I was already there as an executive assistant to the two presidents that were there at the time. So I was assisting them, and the opportunity came up, and she spoke to me about it. She guided me. She developed me, and that's how it happened.
That's so important.
That's how it happened.
Having someone who believes
somebody
in you,
to pay it forward, and that's happened to me a couple of times in my life. And I live by that for myself with other people. If you see something in someone, develop it, encourage it, move it along, mold it, do what you need to do, because someone did it for me. And I think it's important. It
is. I mean, we talk about it all the time, like not having to continue to break these glass ceilings every time, right? The next generation that's coming up behind us. But also, I spoke about it before, about not only just giving people the opportunities, but then giving them the tools that they need to succeed. Right?
Absolutely.
So important.
It's hugely important.
Invaluable. Because we can put people in the positions and then they can fail if we're not giving them the tools that they need to succeed. So I love that you said she trained you, she poured into you, because that's invaluable, right?
Absolutely.
Those are the things that you can't teach that type of stuff. Someone has to help you through that.
You have to have someone, to navigate you through certain things. But you also have to be willing to listen to what people are saying to you. When I was in my 20s, you can tell me anything. I knew it all. I was the bad bee. I knew where I was going. I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know anything, but I thought I did, right? And eventually there were people that would pull me to the side and just, not check me, but here's how we can refine this. Here's how you could approach this. Here's how you should be looking at it.
Yeah.
And eventually I became much more humble, but much more willing to grow and listen to the people that were in front of me.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. A lot of times you want to have conversations with people. They're not ready to receive anything that you have to say.
It's true.
So you have to be open as the person receiving the feedback to listen to what's being said.
Yeah. I also find sometimes we also have to know the feedback that we're giving is the person is ready for it.
Absolutely.
Right. I've learned that more so now than ever before. Like you might want to give someone advice so they can take it on, so they can do better, because you can see it, but they can't. And if they're not in a position to receive it,
they won't hear it.
Deaf ears. Yeah.
They actually won't hear it. So that comes with getting a little bit older and having some more wisdom that, okay, you know what? They're not ready for it yet. I withhold conversations with people all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, because I know they're not going to receive it in the spirit in which I am giving it. But when the opportunity does present itself,
Gotta do it.
Yep, absolutely.
Gotta do it. So being a female leader, what would you say is a barrier that women have when it comes to leadership?
So it's a barrier. It is, I think in my experience, what I have seen is you showing up as your authentic self. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I'm here right now. I'm having a conversation with you. I'm very calm, reasonably refined. But I have a side to me too that is full of passion. And when I believe in something, I'm very passionate about it. You can't always bring that passion into a room as a woman because it then gets misconstrued as aggression, masculinity, whatever the new term is. And you will turn off your audience,
100%.
especially if your audience is a bunch of men. Women are different. We all get it. We all sit around the table. We can be very direct and authentic and have the types of uncomfortable conversations or direct conversations that we need to have. You can't always be that way in a room full of men. And so I've had to learn how to navigate in those spaces. It's a disadvantage to women because men don't have to apologize for who they are at all.
Never.
And they don't. So in business, it is that showing up and not being afraid or unapologetic as to who you really are, but learning how to navigate in this space depending on that audience. That is the thing that I have found, I think, the most.
I know. And it's also quite challenging as well as a Black woman. So you mentioned about being aggressive. And I talk about this all the time at work. It's very different for me to show up and invoke emotion in what I'm saying, or to be even remotely close to angry or upset about something or communicating in any way. I cannot match the emotion that I'm getting. I have to, maintain a very
sit on your hands, I call it.
I know. Every time. And so we're women, but then on top of that, we're Black women as well. So then you have to come into it we have to think in our minds, okay, how can I approach this where I'm not coming across as aggressive so I can still get my message across and be heard, right?
You know what's interesting? I'm about to say something that's probably not going to be very popular. But I've had these conversations in my friend spaces. I find it much more comfortable to be in the space with white men who don't take offense to any of that sort of passion. If I'm in a room with Black men, though, that's where I find I have to turn it down and refine and chip away and sit on my hands a little bit.
Yeah.
And that has been a not only a struggle, but kind of disappointing.
It's extremely disappointing.
I think they would get us.
I know. It's so incredibly, I can't believe you said that because I have this conversation all the time. And like outside of like my dad, my uncles, like my godfathers and stuff, like the only professional mentors that I've had were white men, 100%, who believed in me, who were like, I'm going to pour into you, Jocene, I'm going to give you this opportunity. Were white men outside of obviously my traditional kind of village,
of course.
But and I said that to someone before, and they were just kind of like really shocked by the comment. And it's so true in business. Sometimes the allies that we have that kind of give us a bit more aren't the people who look like us. I think it's getting a little different now, with the kind of I don't know. It being okay to be more than just one of us in a room.
Absolutely.
And I think it's becoming a bit more,
inclusive. Slowly.
Yeah.
I can't leave the comment that I made hanging out there. I've had a lot of people, especially as of late, men of color, really pouring in, navigating, advising, even when I'm not asking for the advice, advising in that space. But primarily, if I were to go back and look at all my professional mentors, they didn't look like my daddy.
100%. Yeah,
they weren't in the room anyway, right?
Yeah, it's the truth. They weren't in the room. That's very true. And then the ones who were, it was never kind of, it was almost like fight or flight. Like, we're both in here. We gotta figure it out, you know? And it was never from a place of like distrust or they were trying to do anything malicious. It was very siloed. Like, you're here, I'm here. We both just need to kind of stay afloat type of thing. And so it's so interesting that you say that because I feel the exact same way.
And a lot of times, especially in the industry that you were in, I was in it too. A lot of times you are the only person of color in a room, much less female. So it becomes this thing that you are not only learning to navigate, but you're carrying a lot on your shoulders for other people as well. Eventually I had to let all of that go. Because it's very, very heavy. But you recognize that when you walk into a room, you are representing not just yourself, but for everybody else.
Yeah, it's true.
They don't know us.
They don't.
So
they don't.
They judge us by what they see in front of them.
It's so crazy, you know, because we don't. A lot of other races don't kind of understand that aspect of it. Like, I always use the example of when Barack Obama became president of the United States. He became everybody's president. You know, it didn't matter what country you were from. He was everybody's president because he was a representation of the highest stature in the land, well, the U.S. You know, everyone knows who that person is. And, you know, that is the case with most Black people, period. Right? I mean, obviously, on the islands, it's a little different. Like, we've had Black leaders for years. But it was just like we carry an extra weight when it comes to those things that most people don't really think about every single day or when they make decisions, for instance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're doing it for everybody.
Everybody. This is it. Yeah. Mama, Nana, Daddy,
everybody.
So what has been like your favorite part of being a leader so far in terms of, when I say leader so far, in this current position as a CEO of the BTA? What has been like your favorite thing?
Easy.
Really?
Watching everybody come alive. Watching everyone come alive.
Yeah.
The energy, the creativity, the discussions. That's the type of stuff that gets me out of bed every morning. The passion from everyone in the organization that wants to do better. They want to do right by Bermuda. There's so many opportunities for us to think differently, to raise engagement about this country. And they're so excited for a while. And a lot of it had to do with COVID and just how we had to navigate all of that stuff. It was pretty rough. It was a rough few years in the organization. And, you know, tourism gets slammed generally. But the resilience of the team is the stuff that a book can be written on, a case study can be made for. Honestly, the team at the BTA are hardworking, they're passionate, they love this country, they really do. And that's the thing that I've been the most proud of, just watching everybody sort of wake up and just do it. I take responsibility for that.
Absolutely.
In that, and that's the thing that I've been the most proud of, building, I think, a really dynamic, talented team, a group of people that just know what the heck they're doing and they do it.
I think that, and I 100% think that you should take ownership of that, because even from the summit, I came up to you at the summit and I was like, this is probably the most accurate representation I've seen of Bermuda at one of these before. I felt like I was not the outlier in the room. I felt like I was watching my people, you know, very broadly in that sense, looking on the screen, it was us, it was the vendors that were being used were Bermudians. And you know what I mean? It was, for the first time, I felt like the product that we kind of have is authentically us. You know what I mean? It's showcasing all the different sides and avenues of Bermuda, not just, and our pink sand beaches are beautiful, don't get me wrong,
they are,
but it's not just that. And I absolutely love that aspect of it. But you did mention a minute ago about how, you know, tourism always gets slammed. How do you navigate those things? Because you guys, you have such a passionate team. Like, how do you navigate the naysayers and the things that they have to say?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So if you would have asked me this probably 2 or 3 months into the role when I was the interim, I would have told you I'm not navigating it very well at all. There were days where I just wanted to hurl myself. I was going to say into oncoming traffic. That's a little bit dramatic. It's a little bit dramatic, a little bit. But it was rough when I first started out, because there were things that were being said about the organization, myself personally, that just were not true. And no one bothered to pick up the phone, call, reach out to who they were connected to in the organization to try to get some truth out of the situation. It was really tough. And I had to stop reading the comments.
Yeah, got you.
And
it's important.
Yeah, I had to stop reading comments.
Yeah.
There was a time where one of my colleagues on the communications team was like, "You need to stop reading the comments.
Gotta stop reading.
You are forbidden from reading the comments."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I cannot stop. And not only am I not going to stop, I want you to go on and I want you to refute what it is that they're saying, because it's all
Chatty
lies.
Catty
Like
52,
exactly. Like
are.
In my face, say my name.
Yeah.
So anyway, how I ended up doing that, or how I ended up getting over that. Number one, I stopped reading the comments. Because I realized these people don't know me.
They don't.
They don't know anything about me. They don't know anything about what they're talking about. They don't know how the organization operates, the people that are here.
They don't know.
Stop reading the comments. But the truth is, people will stop talking when the work starts to speak for itself. So I have blinders on now. It is about the work. It is about the work. We have to get tourism to a space where everybody's eating. And when everybody's eating and everybody's full, no one complains about how hungry they are, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where we need to get to. So, people are going to have their opinions. And listen, we are an organization that wants to be held to account. Accountability is huge for us when it is fair and based in facts.
Absolutely.
If it is nonsense, I'm not going to pay it any mind. I'm not going to allow you to talk about the team. You can say what you like about me. I'm not going to allow you to talk about the team. I'm not going to allow you to disparage the team or the organization, but we have work to do. So excuse me while we do our work.
Exactly. And you have to be allowed the time as well.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think a lot of times, because we're in this right now generation, right? Like everything's right now on our fingertips. And people don't realize that when you're creating or developing or refining a product, it takes time for that type of things to take effect. And we have to be, patient during that process. Also, Bermuda, as lovely of a destination as it is, we have our own set of challenges as well that we still need to work through outside of just the tourism product.
Absolutely.
And people just need to be a bit more kind around that.
I think kind is a good word. I think grace is a better word. And I just wish some of the people that get on social media and dog Bermuda would just stop it.
Yeah.
Whenever I leave the island and I meet with our partners, I meet with travel and trade, I meet with our media partners, they are so excited about Bermuda. They are so excited about Bermuda. They want to work with the BTA. They want to work with us.
Yeah.
They want to make this destination better. I shouldn't have to leave Bermuda to feel good about it. And what people don't understand is every time you say something negatively about the island, it can be seen by anybody that has access to the internet, which is everyone.
Exactly.
I don't get it. It's like being at home and having a personal conversation with your family and then taking that conversation outside of the house.
Yeah.
Stop taking this stuff outside of the house.
I know.
No,
I totally get it. I mean, the same thing. My family, my dad says it all the time. He was like, we can be fighting, but they don't need to know that we're fighting. Like, you know what I mean? This is our family business.
Yeah. Keep it cute. Keep it in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
We will reconvene when we all come back home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a very interesting construct or dynamic, because you don't see that in other countries. You don't see them dogging their own country and yet still expecting us to get people to the island. Well, stop talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Be positive.
Yeah, and then we
come with ideas.
Exact something, right? Like I said this on Twitter the other day. I'm like, how about we find a solution as opposed to you just complaining all the time? And then we have this new kind of, I don't want to say group of people that have left the island and are now aficionados on what to do in Bermuda, or all the things Bermuda is doing wrong. And I'm not saying you can't have an opinion on Bermuda. You're a Bermudian, say what you want to say. but it's just very interesting to me, these outside layers of commenters
Absolutely.
that I just don't understand, you know. And I get it.
Absolutely.
It's some people need to leave, do what you got to do, what's best for you. But let's just, if we all work together to make the product better, like you said, everybody eats.
Everybody eats.
Everybody eats.
And I live by that. Everybody has to eat.
Everybody's got to eat.
Tourism feeds more people, literally, impacts more people than I would even say international business. There is more stretch and breadth in our industry. Restaurants, taxis, tour operators. I mean, it just is on and on and on and on.
Yeah, because even if someone is coming to Bermuda for international business and they choose to bring their spouse or their child, all these other types of things, there's different types of tourism. You have leisure tourists, you have business tourists. There's a difference,
Absolutely.
right? And so that's the other part of it, is the educational part of it, that people just, they don't know until they just...
They're both so interlinked.
So interlinked.
Tourism and international business is so interlinked.
Yeah.
It's important for us to get our product. I was going to say up to date. That's not actually what I want to say. It is about raising awareness of this island again in a way that increases this visitation. Yes, I love repeat visitors. Thank you so much. Keep coming. But I want new people to experience Bermuda as well. Yeah. Different demographics of people to experience Bermuda. And that's what we want. That's what we want.
Absolutely. So now that you're, a newly appointed, because you've been in the interim role for how were you in the interim role?
I was in the interim role for about 9 months.
Exactly. So you've been doing the role now, and now you're officially solidified in there. We're all excited about that. How do you, and I've used the word work-life balance, I've used just balance, I've used all of these different things. How do you maintain work and personal and traveling, because you have such a busy travel schedule? How do you do all of that?
I do it. I would be lying to you if I said I did it with all of this intentionality around balance, because it's just not true.
Yeah.
My daughter, I talk about her a lot. My daughter, I refer to her as my director of boundaries. She's really good at creating boundaries for herself. When she's had enough of people, when she's had enough of me, when she's had enough of enough.
Yeah.
She knows exactly how to power down and decompress. I have not quite figured that out yet. But I've gotten a lot better. What's interesting about me though is that I see it in other people. So I don't want anybody to sort of fly at 100 24/7. So if I think someone around me is doing that, I call it out and I pull them back, because I don't want anybody to burn out.
Yeah.
Burned out twice in my career already. But I've gotten a lot better about paying attention to the signs that says, I'm not eating enough, I'm not hydrated enough, I do need some rest. I actually don't have the capacity to have this conversation with you right now. So allow me to go away and then we can revisit it. So I've gotten a lot better about doing that. Have I mastered it 100%? No. No. I have an early gym time. And the reason why I have an early gym time was because when I was doing it during my lunch hour, I always canceled because something always came up that took priority over me. And so I have to set things up in my life where I can't give up on myself because something else needs to be taken care of. Gotcha. I've gotten better.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Not great.
So,
yeah. And
no advice from me yet about how I've been able to do all of that.
It's so interesting because out of everyone that we have on the podcast, the answer is pretty similar. Like, what is balance, Jocene? Or, there's no such thing, And so I still ask it. I say it in a roundabout way every time. Yeah. But I still ask it because, I think people need to learn that you don't have to be perfect, right? No. And people think like this work-life balancing, which I'm actually I hate the phrase, to be very honest with you, because it's not really a thing. People think that we have to have this incredible work-life balance. And the truth is a ball is going to get dropped, right? And it's how you deal with that.
I think this construct, this notion of work-life balance is an interesting one, right? Because on the one hand, as a woman, we tend to take on all of it, everything. We take on more than our share. Innately, that is who we are as a species. But then on this other side, there's this thing about being independent and non-dependent and getting it all done and being in control. It's all a lie.
Yeah.
It's all very exhausting.
Yeah.
And I think that's the space that we have to sort of ignore and try to carve out what makes sense for us.
Yeah.
And so what makes sense for you is not going to make sense for me.
Agreed.
There are times where I have to come home and turn my laptop back on and respond to some things, even though I know I need to decompress and shut off. It's just not realistic if someone is asking for something and they need it right away. So it has to be done in a way where you're not stressing yourself out by creating these boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is something that people misunderstand about you?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I think there are a lot of people that think they know me that don't. I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that question. Okay. I'm actually really funny. Yeah. I have a dark sense of humor. I think I'm very funny.
Yeah. What would your kids say then?
My kids think I'm corny. They think I'm a cornball completely. Yeah. Yeah. But I actually think I'm very hilarious. Yeah. What else would they? I don't know. I don't know. I'm very hardworking. My brain works in a very interesting way. Like I see people, if however you are introduced to me, that's how I see you. So if you are a vendor, I remember you by the contract that I've signed. I know your number, your salary number. Like how you are introduced to me is how my brain sort of puts you in a category. But yeah. I don't know. I think what they would be surprised about me is that they don't know me as well as they think they do. And I think there's a lot of intentionality around that. Yeah. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just gonna chalk it up to being funny.
There you go. You just be funny, and that's what it is. No, like I just feel like sometimes people they think that people think of them one way, but they're actually completely different. But that comes with how well people know you. So there you go with that as well. So what would you tell 21-year-old Tracy after being through everything that you've been through now? Yeah. What would you tell her?
Oh my goodness. Watch God blow your mind.
Right.
This life that I have, this life that I've been able to afford my children, I didn't dream it. I had something inside of me. I had something inside of me, and I knew life was going to be different from the way it was looking, but I could never dream that it would take the shape that it has taken. Yeah. So I would just tell her to just slow down, hang in there. Don't take it all so serious. You actually don't know everything, sis. So take several. Yeah. And just watch God blow your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. So you do obviously do a lot of traveling for the job, right? And you're out here showcasing Bermuda all the time. What would you say is like your zone of genius when you get work done? Or I shouldn't say get work done because you probably do work all the time. But when's the best time for you?
Usually sometime around 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
Yeah. I usually wake up in the morning when I'm supposed to be sleeping. But there's this period of time where all of the ideas are flooding in my head, and I've thought about how I can solve something. This pops into my mind. I'm going to approach it in this particular way. What I need to start doing is writing it down.
I was just about to say
because then I go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, ooh. But really early in the morning when the house is quiet, when outside is quiet, that's my best time. That's my best time. I would not consider myself a morning person. I'm a morning person by force. By 3 o'clock, I'm tired. I'm ready to just go. And in the evening times, all I really want to do is compress. So there is this period every morning where it's very, very quiet and everything is just flowing. I need to start writing stuff down.
I was just about to say, so I used to have the same, not necessarily problem, but that used to happen to me, and then I couldn't fall back asleep. And so my dad actually told me, he was like, just get a notepad, and because you don't want to turn on your phone, because then the brightness wake you up too much, and just write it down. Like when you have a thought, write it down. And once you've kind of got it down on paper, your brain rests, and it actually really works. And
I'm gonna try that, because what I do then is I keep it in the back of my mind. I fall back asleep,
but you're not really asleep.
But then I'm no longer resting.
Exactly.
So I remember doing what I have to do, but I'm now not resting.
Do you have, your brain hasn't kind of, and I know this might sound a little corny, but hasn't like released. Hasn't let it go. No. Okay. So what would you say is your greatest inspiration, or who or what has been your greatest inspiration?
So beyond my grandparents that I spoke of earlier, there are a lot of people professionally that I think whose names I can call. But honestly, and this may sound cliche, and you may think that I haven't given this any thought. My children, they inspire me every single day. They're all very different, right? I have a son in Canada who's a welder. I have a daughter here who's a doctor. I have my youngest daughter who is also in Canada, who is in nursing school. And they've all had to navigate some very difficult spaces in their lives. They've had some hurts. They've had some disappointments. They've had some amazing wins and celebrations too. But they have such resilience and tenacity. I'm in awe of them. My 22-year-old, my 30-year-old, my 34-year-old, I was not as well developed, well in tuned as they were. And they fascinate me. They actually fascinate me. Because now the relationship is different. Now I'm not raising babies. I'm looking at adults. And well, my youngest one's not an adult yet until she comes off the payroll, but you know what I mean.
Yes, like, I get it.
I am fascinated by them.
Yeah. How much do you like not because you're not at a role reversal stage yet, but more so of the transition of kind of really in the weeds parenting to kind of looking at how things are now? Like from a child's perspective, I really enjoy it. Like your parents are not your friends, but it's a bit more relaxed of a relationship. Different. It's different. How is that from a parent perspective?
I love it. I love hearing how they think. I love hearing out of all of the experiences that they had growing up, where they land on a position, right? So I had an opportunity to influence them when they were younger, but now they're adults, right? And they have their own way of viewing the world. And I'm fascinated by that. I don't like when my two daughters get together, though, because they gang up on me. They gang up on me.
Well, that's how it's supposed to go.
I don't like that. But
that's hilarious.
But beyond that, it's I like it. I'm still mom, and I still swoop and scoop, and I'm still always trying to tell them what to do. That doesn't change.
They may not listen.
And the respect is there. They don't. The respect is still there, but I am enjoying having my 30-year-old daughter look at me as a woman as well as her mother.
I love that. And how important is it for you as a mom, even though you have, adult children, to show them this new Tracy in this new CEO role, leading a huge team? I mean, borderline the country through, this tourism in your respective role. Like, how important is that for you?
Hugely. When I was going through some difficult times earlier in the transition, there were some things that were happening, some things that were being said about me. And I really tried to navigate that space with some grace, because I knew they were looking at me. I knew they were looking at me. And they were looking at me so much that one of them was like, "Are you okay? I'm praying for you. I love you. Everything's going to be okay." And then the other one was like, "Do something. Do something." And so everything that I do, especially for my daughters who I know are watching, and my son too, but my daughters in particular, everything I do because I know they are watching me, and they know me very well. They know when I'm faking it. They know when I'm worried. They know when I am destroyed, but I'm still trying to hold my head up high. Everything I do is to make sure that they have an example of how to navigate with grace, with your head held up high when stuff's popping off.
Yeah.
And you can't control it.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Tracy, we are pretty much done.
All right.
That's crazy. It went by so fast, right?
Yeah, it did. It did. It did.
So no one can leave the sofa without telling me what they want to be remembered for when you're no longer on this planet, and we're not wishing that to happen anytime soon.
No.
Where you're no longer here and someone says, Tracy Berkeley, what do you want to be remembered for?
That I loved hard, that I was loyal, that I loved my children. I loved a good laugh, love a little cocktail, and that in every facet of my life, to God be the glory, because he has been in every part of my life. There is not a part of my life where I haven't seen him, where his hand has not been there.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want people to remember about me. Good. The work, she did some stuff professionally, but really it's about who I am. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I'm so excited.
Yes. Had a good time.
Yes,
Thank you.
It was amazing.
Thank you.
But no, seriously, thank you so much for being on the podcast
Absolutely.
today. Genuinely, really appreciate it. All right, guys, we just had an amazing episode with Bermuda's first female CEO of the Bermuda Tourism Authority, Tracy Berkeley. We're so excited that she was able to join us on the podcast today. And I thank you for spending time with me today and with my lovely guest and learning all about her career journey, about what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a leader, being able to pivot in your careers and pouring into the people who are in your lives and the ones that are coming up behind you. As always, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you like this episode. Head over to the website and become a VIP member. And thanks again for watching Hustle Her Podcast.